Breaking down Florida football right here at the Voice of College Football. And when you talk Florida breakdowns, of course, you got to go with David Waters from Gators Breakdown. So that should be the regular stop for all of you right here on YouTube. And of course, your favorite audio platform, Florida Football with David, one of the best and most popular podcasts across the college football landscape. So check it out on your favorite audio platform. David, how you doing?
Pretty good, Mark. Pretty good. Of course, just waiting for Florida. Spring practice just right in the corner. March 6th for the Gators when they'll be hitting the field. So, of course, 4-game winning streak to end 2025. We've seen a lot of way too early rankings and college football predictions. Florida's included in some of those. And so I said, now just some coaching changes as well. So, yeah, there we go. Just kind of counting down the days till that spring practice kicks off.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we've talked. Give us an idea, because from a national perspective, before this team hit that stretch drive that we were all expecting and talking about the entire offseason, that this was going to be the death march. There was no way they were going to make it through these 5 games at the end of the season, and they did pretty damn well. But if you even take it back to like mid-September, when Billy Napier's walking off the field against Texas A&M, and they just got trounced, and we would have never imagined. Of course, you're more measured. You're more in the day-to-day, understanding, okay, let's not get too high, too low. But you knew that the program was in better shape than most. You know, everybody was, digging an early grave at that point. But what is the difference between where this program sits right now and the fans' optimism right now versus what it was just a few months ago?
Mark, going to your point there, that's kind of why it was so disappointing, because what they showed at the end of the season is kind of what you expected at some point in the season. They just got off to a terrible start. A terrible start versus Miami, a terrible start versus Texas A&M. They hit that first bye week, figured some things out, and then you could tell they were playing better, but they had that disappointing loss at Tennessee. And hey, look, after that loss in the overtime, that was a game they should have beat Tennessee in. The game went to overtime. They lost it. It was just like, at that point, they lost that game every time. I'm like, I don't know how this team can bounce back. They're playing hard, they're playing well, and they're still not winning. And they lost a game they should have lost. And credit to the staff, credit to the players for just keeping on. Got a big, not a big win as in who they beat, but got a big victory point spread wise versus Kentucky. And then DJ Lagway goes down versus Georgia. But if he doesn't go down, a lot of people think they're in a fourth quarter fight with Georgia if he doesn't go down. But then that week later, Florida's beat up, goes to Austin, and just gets waxed by Texas. And then it was just like, okay, well, LSU, Ole Miss coming up after they just got waxed by Texas. It doesn't look good. And once again, rallied the troops, look good, and just put together a 4-game winning streak. And, I think put a lot of confidence in the fan base because, as I said, you knew that team had it in them to go play like that, and they just finally put it together in that late stretch. And Mark and DJ Lagway will get a whole lot of credit, as he should, but it was really the defensive side of the football that really turned the fortunes of Florida. For the first time, we've been able to talk about that side of the ball in quite some time. They were lending Florida and lending themselves to victory there on that side of the ball. Really started up front by getting after the quarterback there with Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp, George Gums, some transfers that are no longer there with Florida as well with Jack Pyburn and TJ Searcy. But Florida really, really got after the quarterback against LSU, against Ole Miss, and it really, really made a difference. So some returning pieces there. And I think that's where it kind of picks up while there is some momentum, while there is a better feeling in Gainesville and Gator Nation right now, because a lot of those pieces come back. You got 4 or 5 offensive linemen come back, along with DJ Lagway, Jaden Ball there at running back. And then on the defensive side of the football, Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp decided to return. Our linebacker core that is no longer a liability. They got some questions in the secondary as they go to spring and need to get healthy in that area. But certainly, I think you can point to a lot of key pieces coming back.
So, because of the optimism and because of DJ Lagway's reputation, his swag, people being excited about that, did you expect a greater haul in the transfer portal? I'm seeing 5, and the 2 guys that jump out, Harrison Bailey, that's just because he was a name in high school, right, of course, when he signed with Tennessee, but of course he's going to be a backup. And Tommy Doman, you replace a really good punter in Jeremy Crawshaw with another excellent punter in Doman, but little else there in the transfer portal.
Yeah, probably the biggest impact is going to be J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA. at wide receiver. And Mark, just as good as I do, if you look at Florida and what they've been able to do in the transfer portal at the wide receiver spot, they've been able to nail it. Ricky Pearsall turned him into a first-round pick, and then Elijah Badger comes from Arizona State. Jim Dike comes from Wisconsin, and both had really, really good seasons this past year for Florida. But Florida's had to rely on the transfer portal at wide receiver. They did need at least one more, and they got that in J. Michael Sturdivant. But it is time now, Mark, for Florida to really get the homegrown wide receivers developed and ready to go. J. Michael Sturdivant, I believe, will be in that top 3 rotation to go along with Trey Wilson coming back from injury and Aiden Mizell. He should be, in that top 3 group. But then, just because Florida hasn't, maybe they win the spring portal, but because Florida didn't get another receiver in the transfer portal, if guys are going to step up, it's going to be the guys they recruited. It's going to be the guys they developed. They got 2 5-stars there, 5-star types with Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown III in this past class, who should really make an immediate impact as well. So the biggest impact, I think, will come from J. Michael Sturdivant, but Kofi Asari at edge, and then the 2 you mentioned as well. Mark, kind of go back to the previous point I said, they got Tyreek Sapp to come back. They got Caleb Banks to come back. They got Austin Barber come back there at left tackle. Jake Slaughter, All-American center, to come back as well. You could tell the approach for Florida this offseason as far as roster building goes was to retain a lot of the roster and keep guys from going to the NFL, keep guys from transferring away, and they come back in key spots. They come back on the offensive line. They come back on the defensive line, the trenches there that we know make a difference there in the SEC. So certainly, Florida, you could tell the approach was, all right, maybe we're not going to hit the portal, and also they signed their biggest high school class ever under Billy Napier, Mark. They had 26 signees for the high school recruiting class. So there weren't a whole lot of spots when they decided to sign a big class and then retain a whole lot of the roster. So that's the main reason why I think you see only 5 guys in the transfer portal.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, talking Florida football, and that is the destination for the best in Florida football talk, whether it's right here on YouTube or on your favorite audio platform. Please like and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. And David, I lost track with the defensive backs coach going to Miami. Has that spot been filled, or who are the candidates?
Yeah, it has been filled, Mark. So a couple storylines to go along with that. Will Harris was the cornerbacks coach for Florida. Was the secondary coach this past year, but Florida did bring in Vinny Sunseri to coach safety. So he was supposed to be coaching the cornerbacks. Ends up going to Miami there. And in Florida, as we're talking 2026 recruiting, Jalen Waters was a defensive back commit for the Gators, been committed quite some time now, but was flirting with Miami anyway, even before this coaching move. Not long after this coaching move was made, I think it was last Thursday. On Friday or Saturday, Jalen Waters decommitted from Florida. So he was flirting already with Miami, maybe been trending Miami anyway. This kind of sealed the deal. I wouldn't completely throw him away from the class yet. He's already committed to Florida State, decommitted from Florida State, committed to Florida, decommitted from Florida. Looks like Miami's going to be there, be the next, maybe one he commits to, or maybe he holds off this time. But all all big 3 in Florida kind of getting in the mix here for Jalen Waters at one point in his recruitment there. So certainly a different style of recruitment there, but a unique one. But Florida did make the hire already on Sunday. Gators hired Deron Wilson. He was just named defensive coordinator at Georgia State, but has spent the last 2 years at Arkansas as their cornerbacks coach, and was with Billy Napier on his initial staff at Florida as a quality control cornerbacks coach in 2022. So a little bit of familiarity there with him, but Deron Wilson, Southern Miss alum there, certainly made his way a bit, had a stint at UTSA and McNeese as well, was a defensive coordinator at McNeese as well. When he left Florida, Mark, to go to Arkansas from the 2022 season to the 2023 season, really improved Arkansas's pass defense. But then after losing their best player to an early season injury and some transfers, they really fell back down to earth last year. But still, I think it was Dale McGee who was hired at Georgia State, still thought enough of him to bring him on as defensive coordinator. But that's never going to happen as he takes the cornerbacks coach job at Florida.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown. David, always good to see you. And we'll have some spring football here in just about a month.
Absolutely. Wait, just waiting for it, Mark. Just waiting for it.